Wade Barrett ripped the burning axle off the child's pinned leg with his bare hands, skin hissing against the scorched timber, and when she whispered, "Please don't hurt me. I can't walk," he pressed his forehead to hers and swore on his dead brother's grave that no man alive would ever touch her again. Before we ride deeper into this story, please subscribe to the channel, follow every part to the end, and drop the city you're watching from in the comments, so I can see just how far this little girl's story has traveled. The smoke climbed the mountain before the screaming did, and Wade Barrett knew both sounds the way a man knows his own name. He had been riding the ridgeline 3 hours past dawn when the black column bloomed above the canyon. Not cookfire smoke, not pitch pine smoke, the kind of smoke that came from varnished wood and oiled leather and expensive eastern canvas going up all at once. "Easy, son," he murmured to the dun gelding, though his own jaw had already locked hard. "Easy now." Then the cry came, thin, high. A child's voice cracked open by fear. Wade did not think. He drove his heels into the gelding's flanks and sent the horse down the shale chute at a slide any sane man would have called suicide. Rock sprayed, scrub oak tore his sleeve. The dun dropped its hindquarters and half skidded the last 40 feet into the dry wash, and Wade was already out of the saddle before the horse had squared itself. "Hey!" he bellowed across the ravine. "Anybody alive down there, sing out." Only the fire answered, one wheel still turning slow on its axle. Flames licking torn canvas like tongues. A man lay face down in the sand beside the wreckage. Wade did not need to check for breath. The red pool beneath the fellow's head had already stopped spreading. "Sing out!" Wade called again louder. "I ain't here to hurt nobody." The cry came a third time weaker, and this time he caught the direction. Beneath the wagon, pinned. He went to his knees in the gravel. "Little one, you hear me. You keep talking. You keep that voice moving, you understand." A whimper, then hoarse and half-choked, I can't get free. I'm coming to you, right now. Hold on." He belly-crawled under the smoking frame, heat scorching the back of his neck, and there she was. 10 years old, maybe 11. Dark hair plastered to a small, sweat-slick forehead. Eyes blown wide with the kind of terror Wade had seen in wounded animals, and once years ago in his own brother's face. A splintered axle lay across her leg. A leather brace clung to her calf. The other brace had snapped clean and twisted away at a sickening angle. "Don't move," Wade said. "Not 1 inch. You hear me?" "Please," the girl breathed. "Please, mister." "Name's Wade. What's yours, sweetheart?" Lucy." "Lucy. That's a fine name. Lucy, I'm gonna lift this off you. It's gonna hurt. I ain't gonna lie to you about that. But you are gonna live. Do you hear me? You are gonna live." "Don't." Her fingers closed on his wrist with a grip no child's hand should have had. "Don't send me back. Please. Please, mister, don't send me back to him." Wade went very still. "Back to who, child?" "My uncle." Her eyes filled, but the tears never fell. They just shook on her lashes, trapped. "If he finds out I'm alive, he'll finish it proper this time." A cold thing passed through Wade's chest, slow and steady, as a creek freezing over. He had come down into this canyon expecting a runaway team and a broken wheel. He had come down expecting bad luck. This was not bad luck. "Nobody's sending you back to nobody," he said quietly. "You hear me, Lucy? Nobody. Now squeeze my hand. Squeeze as hard as you can and don't you let go." She squeezed. Wade braced his shoulder against the axle, set his boots in the dirt, and heaved. The timber came up an inch. 2. The girl made a sound he would hear in his sleep for the rest of his life. Then the beam rolled clear, and he had her in his arms, brace and blood, and all backing out from under the wagon with his teeth bared against the heat. That was when the rifle cracked. Wood exploded an inch from Wade's ear. He threw himself flat over the child, rolled, came up with her against his chest, and his own revolver, already clearing leather. Another shot. Sand kicked up at his boot heel. A third, and the dead driver's hat skipped across the wash like a stone thrown by a boy. "Somebody wants you quiet, little one," Wade muttered against her hair. He stayed. She was shaking so hard, her teeth had begun to chatter despite the heat. He stayed to watch. He always stays to watch. "Who does?" Uncle's man, the one with the gray hat. He said he'd make sure the fire took care of it. Wade lifted his head a fraction. High up on the northern ridge, 400 yards of slope and scree above them, he caught a glint. Rifle son. A patient man lying in good cover with a long gun and time on his side. Not an outlaw. An outlaw ran after one shot. This was work. Lucy, you listen to me. Yes, sir. I'm gonna carry you. I'm gonna run. He's gonna shoot at us. You are gonna press your face into my shoulder, and you are not gonna look up. Not once. You understand me? Yes, sir. Good girl. Good brave girl. He holstered the revolver, gathered her tight, and came up out of the wash in a low sprint toward the creekbed willows, 30 yards west. Another shot tore past. Another. Wade felt the wind of one of them on his cheek close enough that later thinking on it, his stomach would turn over. The gelding had drifted downstream after the commotion. Good horse, smart horse, still standing. He crashed into the willows, dropped to one knee, set the girl against a cottonwood trunk, and drew iron. You stay behind this tree. You do not come out. Not if you hear me shout. Not if you hear me cuss. Not for nothing. Where are you going? Nowhere. I'm fixing to make that fella on the ridge think twice. Mr. Wade. Lucy. Thank you. He looked at her then. Really looked. The brace on her good leg was scorched but intact. The broken brace on the other had gouged her calf where the strap had cut in. Her dress was Eastern cotton, hand-stitched to quality a mountain man noticed the way a woman might notice a wedding ring. Somebody had spent real money dressing this child. And somebody else had spent real money arranging that she burn. Don't thank me yet, he said. You ain't out of the canyon. He moved upstream along the willows in a crouch, boots silent on the damp sand, until he reached a bend where a granite shoulder gave him cover and a clear angle on the ridge. He thumbed the hammer back and waited. The shooter shifted. Just the smallest adjustment. A man getting restless behind his scope. Wade squeezed. The revolver bucked. Up on the ridge, 400 yards away, rock splintered a foot from the rifleman's hide. Wade was not fool enough to think he had hit him with a pistol at that range. He only meant to say one thing clean and plain as a headstone. You have been seen. The ridge went quiet. 30 seconds. A minute. Then faint in the hot stillness, the sound of a horse being walked carefully backward off a skyline. The shooter was leaving. Not because he was beaten. Because he had a better idea. Wade knew that sound. He had made it himself once in a different life, in a different war. He made his way back to the cottonwood at a run. Lucy. Lucy, honey. We got a ride. She had not moved an inch from where he had put her. Her face was gray. Her eyes were closed. For one awful second, Wade thought he had come back too late. Then he saw her chest rise, and he almost dropped to his knees in the sand. All right, sweetheart. I got you. He's gone, she whispered without opening her eyes. For now. He'll come back. Yes, ma'am, he surely will. That's why we ain't gonna be here when he does. He whistled the dun down to the willows, lifted Lucy up into the saddle, and swung up behind her. She weighed nothing. A child her age ought to have weighed more. Wade filed that thought away with the other cold things, stacking up in his chest. You hold on to the horn, he told her. You hold on, and you do not let go. And Lucy, sir, if you pass out, you pass out. I got you. I ain't letting you fall. Not today. Not ever. She made a small sound. It might have been a thank you. It might have been a sob. Wade did not ask her to clarify. He reined the gelding up the south bank of the wash and pointed him at the high country away from the wagon road, away from the settlements, away from anywhere a respectable man with a gray hat might expect a mountain cowboy to run. They rode an hour in silence before Lucy spoke again. Mr. Wade. Yes, ma'am. The driver, Mr. Halloran, is he? He's gone, honey. He's gone. A pause. He was kind. He always brought me peppermint sticks when Uncle wasn't looking. Then he was a good man. Uncle will say it was an accident. I reckon he will. He always says it was an accident. Wade's jaw worked. He did not trust himself to answer that right away. He let the gelding pick his way up the switchback trail and finally said, How many accidents has your uncle had, Lucy? She was quiet a long time. My mama, she said at last. Her horse bolted. That was an accident, my papa. His gun misfired cleaning it. That was an accident. Mr. Caldwell, who was papa's friend at the bank. He fell down the stairs. That was an accident. Mrs. Brennan, who used to mind me. She drowned in the creek behind our house. That was an accident. Lucy. And my leg, Mr. Wade. My leg was an accident too. That's what the doctor says. But the brace is so tight, I can't feel my toes half the time. And when I asked the doctor to loosen it, he said, Uncle said no. Wade closed his eyes for one long breath. Then he opened them. Sweetheart, he said, how old are you? 10. I'll be 11 in September. And you figured all this out on your own. I listen, Mr. Wade. When folks think you're a cripple, they talk in front of you like you're furniture. He almost laughed. It came out more like a growl. Well, Miss Lucy Whitaker, I reckon your uncle's made his last mistake, and I reckon you are going to be the one who proves it. You know my name. Your papa hand-stitched your initials into your collar, honey. L.R.W. Lucy Rose. That's a pretty name. Mama's name. Then you carry her well. She leaned back against his chest. Then the first yielding he had felt from her, since he'd pulled her out from under the axle, and Wade Barrett, who had not held anything smaller than a rifle in 8 long years, felt something in him shift that he was not ready to name. Mr. Wade. Yes, ma'am. Where are we going? He thought of a schoolhouse in a dusty settlement called Dry Creek, and a woman who had every right in the world to shoot him on sight for what he had done to her 8 years back. We're going to see the only person in this territory I trust with a hurt child, he said. Is she nice? She's honest. That's better. Is she your wife? The question hit him sideways. No, honey. Your sweetheart? She was once, a long time ago. Why ain't she anymore? Because I'm a coward, Miss Lucy. That's the plain truth of it. Now hush and drink some water. He passed her his canteen. She drank like she had not been given water on a schedule in a long time. And that too, he filed away. They rode another mile before the next question came. Mr. Wade. Yes, ma'am. If Uncle comes for me there, will you shoot him? Wade thought about that one a long time. He thought about his brother, about a land deal in '77, about a grave marker so weathered a man could barely read the name anymore. He thought about the wagon burning behind them, and the man on the ridge walking his horse back off a skyline. Lucy, he said, listen to me careful. There's men in this world you can shoot and it solves something. Your uncle ain't one of them. You shoot him, all his money just hires a new hand, and his name stays clean, and some other little girl gets a brace strapped too tight. Then what do? We make him stand up in front of folks who matter and answer for it. We make his name dirty where it lives. We use the law against him, and if the law won't hold, we use the truth. And if the truth won't hold, we use you, sweetheart. We put you standing up on your own 2 feet in front of every banker and newspaper man in the territory, and we let them see what he tried to hide. I can't stand Mr. Wade, not without the brace. We'll see about that. The doctor said, the doctor's on his payroll, honey. You said so yourself. She went quiet again, then very small. You really ain't gonna send me back, Miss Lucy. He tilted his chin down so she could hear him clear. You are welcome to ride this horse with me until your hair goes gray. Anybody comes to take you, he is gonna have to go through me, and I am a considerable amount of through. She cried then, silent, not a sound. He felt it only by the small shake of her shoulders against his chest. He let her cry. He did not tell her everything was fine. He did not tell her she was safe. He had not lied to a child in 38 years of hard living, and he was not about to start on a mountain trail with the sun going copper behind the peaks, and a gray-hatted man somewhere at their backs already writing for help. Because Wade Barrett knew what was coming. By sundown, word would move. By sunrise, a respectable-voiced man in a fine black coat would be telling a marshal in a clean-swept office that Wade Barrett, mountain cowboy drifter man of unsteady reputation, had murdered a family driver in the canyon and taken a sick little girl off into the hills against her will. And the marshal would believe it. Because money was the loudest voice on the frontier, and the truth up here always had to ride harder and meaner and later. Wade tightened his arm around the sleeping child, and pointed the gelding toward Dry Creek. He had 8 years of silence to break, and he had about 8 hours to do it in. By the time the sun dropped behind the west rim, Lucy was shaking so hard, Wade could feel her bones through the fabric of her dress. "Fever," he muttered. "Of course you got a fever." I'm fine, Mr. Wade." "You ain't fine. Don't lie to a man trying to save you. It's bad manners." She laughed at that. A small, broken surprise sound, like she had forgotten her own mouth could do it. Wade filed that away too. He was doing a lot of filing tonight. He had been riding them up the old Shoshone Trail, a game path his brother had shown him back when they were boys hunting elk above the timberline. No wagon could follow it. No marshal from a flatland town would even know it existed. There was a line shack at the top, a shepherd's hut really tin-roofed and half-fallen that he had wintered in twice. It was the only roof inside 20 miles he trusted. "2 more hours, honey. Can you hold on 2 more hours?" "Yes, sir." "You ain't gotta call me, sir." "Yes, sir." He let it go. They rode the switchbacks in the blue dusk. Somewhere behind them, a mile or more back, a dog barked once and then was hushed. Wade's hand moved to the revolver without him deciding to move it. "Mr. Wade?" "I heard it, sweetheart." "He brought dogs." "Somebody did." "Uncle keeps a kennel at the north barn, 6 of them. He says they're for hunting. They ain't for hunting, Mr. Wade." "No, I don't reckon they are." He kicked the gelding up to a harder pace, and the dog did not bark again. The line shack came up on them around full dark, a square blot against the rising stars. Wade swung down, first, lifted Lucy off the saddle, and set her gentle as eggs on the bench inside the door. He lit no lamp. He did not need to. "You stay right there. Don't even breathe loud." "Where are you going?" "To tell the horse to go home." "What?" He did not answer. He stripped the saddle off the dun, in the dooryard, turned the horse's nose downhill, smacked him hard on the rump, and watched him lope off into the pines at a pace no pursued animal would ever take. A free horse moved one way. A hunted horse moved another. Any tracker worth his coffee would read that split and follow the wrong set of prints for an hour before he realized his mistake. It might buy them an hour. It might buy them 20 minutes. Wade came back inside and barred the door. "Smart," Lucy whispered in the dark. "Hush, child. I mean it. That was smart." "Well, thank you, Miss Lucy. I try." He knelt in front of her and ran his hands along her bad leg through the dress fabric light as he could. She flinched once. He stopped. "I got to look at this brace, honey. You can't take it off." "I sure can." "The doctor said." "Lucy." He kept his voice so gentle it nearly broke him. "Lucy, I want you to listen. The doctor is a liar. Anybody who put this thing on a little girl and pulled the straps this tight is a liar. I ain't asking his permission, I'm asking yours." She was quiet a long moment. "Will it hurt?" "Probably. More than now. Maybe for a minute." "Okay." He worked the buckles by feel. 3 of them stiff with old sweat and newer blood. When the leather came free, the girl made a sound like a soul, letting go of a weight it had carried too long, and her small foot twitched against his knee of its own accord. "There," Wade breathed. "There, see. It moved." "Yes, ma'am, it did." "Mr. Wade, it moved." "I know, honey." "The doctor said it would never." "The doctor," Wade said, "can go straight to hell." Lucy laughed again, wet this time, and she put her small hot hand on his rough one and left it there. Then the dog barked. Close. Wade was up and at the shutter slit before the sound had died. He laid his eye against the crack and counted. 2 riders at the foot of the meadow. A third coming up slow behind them leading a pack mule. And the dog, a big blue tick bitch, nose down, tail stiff, working the wrong trail. She was following the dun. For now. "Lucy." "Yes, sir." "Under the bunk, flat as a snake. Don't you make a sound. Don't you come out till I come get you. If I don't come get you, you stay there till morning, and then you walk out the back hatch and you go straight downhill to the creek and you follow it till you hit a wagon road. You understand me?" "Mr. Wade, say you understand." "I understand." "Good girl." She crawled under the bunk faster than a child with a hurt leg had any right to. Wade pulled his rifle from the rafters, where he kept it cached, levered around, and settled himself beside the door with his back to the wall. Outside, the dog circled once confused and then struck the right trail, the one coming straight to the shack. "Ain't that just like a blue tick?" Wade muttered. A voice called from the meadow, not loud, educated, carrying. "Mr. Barrett Wade." "Barrett. My name is Corbin. I ride for Mr. Silas Whitaker. I mean, you no harm, sir." Wade did not answer. "Mr. Barrett, we have reason to believe you took a sick child from the scene of a tragic accident this afternoon. No one blames you, sir. You did what any Christian man would do. But the child needs her family, and her family is willing to be generous about the misunderstanding." Wade put his eye back to the shutter slit. 3 men, 2 with rifles crosswise on their saddles. The speaker with his hands in plain view, gloved pale against the dark. "How generous, Mr. Wade called back. $500, Mr. Barrett, tonight. Cash. And our sincere gratitude. 500 for a child. For the child's safe return. And if I said 1,000... A pause. Out in the meadow a horse stamped. 1,000 could be arranged. Wade smiled in the dark. It was not a nice smile. "Uncle's boy," he whispered toward the bunk. "You just told me everything I needed to know." "Mr. Barrett," the voice called again. "I'm still thinking Corbin." "Take your time, sir." "Corbin, let me ask you something." "Of course." "If I was to walk out this door with the little girl in my arms and hand her to you, what exactly would happen next?" Another pause, longer. "She would be returned to her loving uncle, Mr. Barrett." "Uh-huh. And you would be compensated." "And the driver of that wagon, Halloran. What happens to him?" "The driver is deceased, Mr. Barrett. A tragic accident." "Yeah, I got that part." Wade drew a breath. He laid his cheek against the rifle stock. "Corbin, you there?" "I'm here, sir." "Tell your boss something for me." "Yes, sir." "Tell him Wade Barrett said the girl ain't for sale." He squeezed the trigger. The shot took the pack mule's lead rope clean in half. The mule bolted. The 2 flanking riders jerked their rifles up. The dog began to bay in earnest. Corbin, to his credit, did not flinch. "Mr. Barrett!" Corbin called, his voice gone flat and cold. Now the civility stripped off like a coat. "You have just made a very foolish decision." "I've been making 'em all day, mister. It's a habit." Then the riders opened up on the shack. Bullets tore through the pine slats like the walls were paper. Wade was already on the floor, already rolling, already under the bunk where Lucy lay, throwing his body over hers. A slug took out the lantern. Another splintered the table. A third punched clean through the tin roof and out the other side. "Mr. Wade, shh, shh, honey, shh. Are we dying?" "Not today." "You're bleeding." "It's a scratch." "It's on my dress." He looked down. A long red smear had painted itself across the child's shoulder where his arm had come around her. His arm. Not her. He could feel it now, hot and wet, where a splinter of pine the size of a buck knife had driven itself into his bicep. "See?" he said. "Scratch." The shooting slowed, then stopped. "Mr. Barrett." Corbin again. "That was a warning. The next volley will not miss. Send the child out. We will let you ride away. You have my word." Wade had heard a lot of men give their word in his life. He knew the sound of it when it was worth something, and the sound of it when it was not. "Corbin." "Yes." "You ever meet a mountain man who trusted a flatlander's word?" "Mr. Barrett." "Me neither." Wade rolled out from under the bunk, came up on one knee, laid his rifle across the windowsill, and put a .44 caliber round through the blue-tick dog. The animal went down without a sound. He hated to do it. He hated it more than the men. But a dog on a scent was a worse enemy than a man with a gun, and he needed Corbin's party blind. The second shot he put through the lead rider's thigh. Not the chest. A dead man could not carry a message. A wounded man could and would do it loud. The rider screamed and went off his horse sideways. The other riders broke for the tree line, dragging their friend. Corbin backed his horse into the pines, slow, both gloved hands still in view, his eyes fixed on the dark rectangle of the shack door. "Mr. Barrett," he called, almost pleasant again. "Mr. Whitaker will hear of this. I am counting on it, Corbin. He will not stop. Neither will I. You do not know what you have picked up. I know exactly what I picked up. That is why I ain't putting her down." Corbin nodded once, like a man acknowledging a move on a chessboard, and rode into the pines after his men. Wade did not lower the rifle for a full minute, then another. When he finally set it against the wall, his hands were shaking. "Lucy, Lucy, come on out, honey." She crawled out from under the bunk. The first thing she did was touch his bleeding arm. "You need this wrapped. In a minute. Mr. Wade, you need this wrapped now." She wrapped him. Tight, clean, efficient. The knot she tied was a drover's knot, the kind a ranch hand used to lash a bedroll. Wade watched her fingers, and something in his chest broke and mended at the same time. "Lucy." "Yes, sir." "Your papa taught you that knot." "Yes, sir." "Your papa was a cattleman." "Yes, sir." "And your uncle, he ain't." "No, sir. Uncle don't like horses. Uncle don't like cows. Uncle don't like dust." "What does your uncle like, Lucy?" She tied off the bandage and looked up at him with eyes that ought to have belonged to a woman grown. "Uncle likes paper, Mr. Wade. Paper. Papers with signatures. Papers with seals. Papers that say a thing belongs to him that didn't used to." "Honey, there's a box, Mr. Wade." He went very still. "A box. In the wagon. Under the false bottom in the trunk. Papa showed me where before. He said if anything ever happened, I was to get the box to the federal man in Denver. Not the territory man. The federal man. He was very particular." Lucy rose. "Papa said the box would stop him. Papa said the box was why." "Why what, honey?" "Why Papa's gun misfired Mr. Wade." Wade shut his eyes. "The wagon burned, sweetheart." "I know." "The box is gone." "No, sir." "No, I took it out, Mr. Wade, 3 nights ago, when Uncle sent the good housekeeper away, and I knew something was coming. I took the box out and I hid it. I hid it in the cellar of the summer house, under the preserves, behind the pickled beets, because Uncle hates pickled beets." Wade opened his eyes and looked at this 10-year-old girl like he was seeing her for the first time. "Lucy." "Yes, sir." "Does your uncle know the box exists?" "He knows Papa had something. He's been tearing the main house apart for a month looking for it. That's why he sent me on the wagon, to get me out of the house so his men could look proper. And when they didn't find it, then I expect the wagon was never meant to reach the specialist, Mr. Wade." Wade laughed. It came out rough and without humor, and he could not help it. He laughed because if he did not laugh, he would put his fist through the wall of the shack. "Miss Lucy Rose Whitaker," he said, "you are the most dangerous 10-year-old in the state of Colorado." "Territory, Mr. Wade." "Territory. I stand corrected. What do we do?" He thought about it for exactly 3 heartbeats. "We get you to Eleanor Hart. We get you healed enough to sit a horse. We go back to that summer house, and we take that box out from behind them pickled beets, and we ride it to Denver ourselves. All 3 of us." "Who is Eleanor Hart?" "A school teacher." "A school teacher can't fight my uncle." "This one can." "Mr. Wade?" "Yes, ma'am." "Why does she hate you?" He sighed. "She don't hate me, child. She just don't trust me. There's a difference, and it's a worse one." "What did you do?" "I left. My brother died and I couldn't stand the shape of a town no more, so I walked out on a woman who was waiting on me to marry her, and I went up into these mountains, and I stayed up here 8 years, and never once wrote her a letter. That is what I did, Lucy. And every night of those 8 years, I knew it was the worst thing I ever done, and I did not go back because I was afraid. Of her. Of the look on her face when she seen me again." Lucy considered this. Then she reached up and patted his unwounded arm with a small solemn hand. "She'll forgive you, Mr. Wade. You don't know that, honey. I do." "How?" "Because you saved me. And any woman who would love a man like you in the first place is the kind of woman who can tell a good one when she sees him." Wade had to look away. He cleared his throat. He cleared it again. "Lucy Rose, you are going to ruin me." "Yes, sir." He stood up, tested the bandage, picked up the rifle, and held out his hand to her. "Can you walk, honey?" "Just to the door." "I ain't got the gelding no more. We're gonna have to go on foot to the south pasture and steal us a fresh horse off old man Pritchard, and then we are gonna ride until the sun comes up." She stood, without the brace, on her own 2 legs, wobbly as a new calf, pale as paper teeth gritted against the pain. She took 1 step, then another. "Mr. Wade." "Yes, ma'am." "Don't tell nobody yet." "About what, honey?" "About me walking." "Why not?" Her small face went hard in a way no child's face should ever have to go hard. "Because Uncle thinks I can't, and when the time comes to finish him, I want him looking at me when I stand up." Wade Barrett, mountain cowboy. Late of nowhere, a man who had not believed in much of anything for 8 long years looked down at Lucy Rose Whitaker in the ruins of a shot-up line shack and felt something he had thought he was done feeling. He felt hope. And he felt rising right behind it the cold, clean fury of a man who had finally found something worth fighting for. He swung the door open, lifted the child into his arms because a 1/4 mile on that leg was still a 1/4 mile too far, and stepped out into a night that smelled of pine smoke and horse blood, and the first real purpose Wade Barrett had carried in close to a decade. Behind them, the line shack went dark. Ahead of them, down the long black slope, a schoolhouse lamp burned in a settlement called Dry Creek, and a woman Wade had wronged was still awake at an hour when honest women slept, because honest women, in his experience, always knew when trouble was coming before trouble itself did. The schoolhouse lamp was still burning when Wade Barrett pushed open the gate with his boot and carried Lucy up the 3 wooden steps to the door. He did not knock. He stood there a full 20 seconds with his forehead pressed against the painted pine, and he listened to the small sound of a woman inside turning a page of a book she was not really reading. "Eleanor," he said through the door. Quiet. Just her name. The page stopped turning. A chair scraped back. A long silence. Then the bar lifted slow and the door opened, and Eleanor Hart stood in her own doorway in a gray wool wrapper, with her hair down her back, in a braid, holding a lamp in one hand, and a Henry rifle in the other. And she looked at Wade Barrett for the first time in 8 years and 3 months and 11 days. She did not cry. She did not smile. She did not speak. She just looked at him, and then she looked at the child bleeding in his arms, and then she looked at him again, and her whole face did something Wade did not have a name for. "Eleanor, I know." "Don't." "I know, Eleanor." "Don't you dare, Wade Barrett. Don't you dare stand on my porch at 4 in the morning with a hurt child and think any word out of your mouth is going to come before that child's safety." "No, ma'am." "Bring her in." "Yes, ma'am. And when she is safe and sleeping, you and I are going to have a conversation. And you are going to sit in that chair, and you are going to take every word I have saved for you for 8 years, and you are not going to interrupt one single syllable. Do you understand me?" "Yes, ma'am, I do." "Bring her in." He brought her in. Eleanor set the lamp on the table, and the rifle across the table, and her hands went to the child without ever once touching the man. She unbuttoned Lucy's scorched dress with the speed of a woman who had undressed hurt children before, and when she saw the blistered skin and the raw strap marks, and the angry red ring where the brace had cut in above the ankle, she sucked her breath in through her teeth and held it for a 3 count before she let it out. "Oh," Eleanor said softly. "Oh, you poor lamb." "Ma'am." "Hush, honey, I have you. What's your name?" "Lucy." "Lucy what?" Lucy looked at Wade. "It's all right, honey," Wade said. "You can tell her. Lucy Rose Whitaker." Eleanor's hands did not stop moving. She kept cleaning the burn on Lucy's shoulder with a clean cloth and warm water from the kettle. But her eyes flicked up to Wade's face, and they were cold and sharp as a winter creek. "Whitaker," she said. "Yes, as in Silas Whitaker." "His niece, Wade Barrett." "I know Eleanor. You brought Silas Whitaker's niece to my schoolhouse. I didn't have anywhere else to take her." "You didn't have anywhere else to take her. In the whole Colorado Territory. In all the God-made earth. You came to my door. Yes. After 8 years. Yes. Eleanor set the cloth down. She folded her hands in her lap. She closed her eyes for one slow breath. Wade Barrett, she said. If this child were not in this room, I would shoot you where you stand. I know. And I would not miss. I know, Eleanor. Stop saying my name. Yes, ma'am. Lucy from the table said in a voice thin as smoke. Ma'am. Eleanor opened her eyes. Yes, honey. Please don't shoot him yet. Why not, sweetheart? Because he's the only man who ever saved me, and I ain't done needing him. The room went still. Eleanor looked at Lucy. Lucy looked at Eleanor. Something passed between them that Wade Barrett did not have the credentials to witness. Then Eleanor picked up the cloth again and went back to cleaning the child's wounds, and her voice came out gentler than Wade had heard it in all the years he had known her. All right, Lucy, all right. He lives till morning. Thank you, ma'am. Don't thank me yet. Morning's a few hours off. Wade almost smiled. He did not quite get there. Eleanor worked on Lucy for the better part of an hour. She cleaned the burns. She salved the strap marks. She wrapped the ankle properly in clean muslin. When she got to the place where the brace had dug in deepest, she stopped, and her hands went still, and she looked at the leather contraption Wade had unbuckled back in the line shack and set on her table. Wade. Ma'am? Come here. He came. Look at this. I'm looking. Tell me what you see. I see a brace. Look harder, Wade Barrett. Look at the inside of it. He looked. He had seen it in the dark of the shack. He had not seen it in the yellow light of a schoolhouse lamp. And what he had not seen before, he saw now. There were small iron studs set into the leather on the inside of the brace, pointed inward, not sharp enough to pierce, just sharp enough to bruise, to chafe, to hurt a child's skin every time she tried to use the leg the way God made it to be used. Wade stared. Eleanor. Yes. That ain't medicine. No. That's a torture device. That's a device. Eleanor said, her voice flat and quiet and terrible, designed to make a child who could walk believe that she could not, and to punish her when she tried. Eleanor. Someone paid for this, Wade. Someone commissioned it. A blacksmith made it. A doctor prescribed it. A man ordered it. There is a chain of people who looked at a 10-year-old girl and decided to do this to her for money. I know it. Say his name, Wade Barrett. Silas Whitaker. Say what he is. He's a murderer. Say it like you mean it. He's a child killer, Eleanor, and he tried to burn this little girl alive yesterday afternoon, and I'm going to stand him in front of a federal judge in Denver City before the summer is out, or I'm going to die trying. Eleanor looked at him for a long time. Well, she said finally, and her voice broke just a little on the single word. Well, there's the Wade Barrett I used to know. He could not speak for a minute. Lucy is not the only reason he tried, Wade said when he could. The girl has got documents, papers her daddy hid, ledger pages, signatures, maybe deeds. She hid 'em before they put her on the wagon, in the cellar of the summer house, behind a row of pickled beets. Pickled beets. Her uncle don't like pickled beets. Good Lord. I got to get to that cellar, Eleanor, and I got to get her to Denver, and I got nobody on God's earth I trust with either thing except you. Eleanor was quiet a long moment. You understand, she said, that bringing that child here put every person in this settlement in danger. I understand. Silas Whitaker's reach is long, Wade. He has been buying land up this valley for 3 years. He holds paper on half the men in Dry Creek, the feed store, the forge, the livery. There is not a man on this street he cannot squeeze if he chooses to squeeze. I know it. When his men come, and they will come, some of these people will choose him. Not because they want to, because they have to. Because a man with children of his own cannot stand on principle when a man with money is looking at his note. I know, Eleanor. So tell me what you thought I could do for you. Wade looked at her. I thought, he said quietly, that you could do what you have always done. I thought you could tell the truth out loud in a room full of people too scared to say it. I thought you could stand in front of a child and not move. and I thought if I brought her to your door, you might hate me enough to still help her." Eleanor's eyes filled. She did not let the tears fall. "Damn you, Wade Barrett," she whispered. "Yes, ma'am." Before she could say more, a rooster crowed somewhere 2 streets over. A second answered. A dog, a real dog this time, not a blue-tick bitch on a scent, began to bark at the mill end of the settlement. And then, faintly, the sound Wade had been waiting for all night long. Hoofbeats. More than 3. Less than 10. Coming in at a trot, not a gallop. Men who believed the law was on their side and saw no need to hurry. Eleanor's face changed. "Lucy," she said. "Honey, can you stand for me?" "Yes, ma'am." "Stand, sweetheart." Lucy stood. Not pretty, not easy. But on her own feet, on her own legs, both of them, and Eleanor Hart put a hand over her own mouth and made a small sound behind it, and then took the hand away and was all business again. "There is a hatch under this rug, Lucy. Storage cellar. Dry. Safe. I have hidden 3 runaway wives and a Chinese railroad worker in that cellar in the last 4 years, and nobody in this town has ever found it. Can you climb down a ladder?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Down you go. I will hand you a candle and a blanket. You do not come up, you do not make a sound, you do not answer a voice unless it is mine or Mr. Barrett's. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." "And Lucy?" "Yes, ma'am." "You are a very brave little girl." "I know, ma'am." Eleanor laughed, sudden and wet. "Get down there." Lucy went. The hatch closed. The rug went over it. Eleanor moved across the schoolhouse like a woman 20 years younger, pulled 3 Henry rifles out of a cupboard above the blackboard, and laid them out on a bench with a box of cartridges between. 3 rifles, Eleanor. My father ran freight through Apache country, Wade. I was raised to keep guns in 3s. You still load your own? I still load my own. Good. The hoofbeats came up the main street and stopped outside the schoolhouse. A horse stamped. A saddle creaked. And then a voice Wade had never heard but knew immediately, because he had been listening to men like this his whole life, called out from the dooryard, as polite as a Sunday deacon. "Miss Eleanor Hart, this is Marshal Clive Rourke of the Territorial Peace. We have a warrant for a Mr. Wade Barrett on charges of kidnapping and horse theft, and for the recovery of a minor child by the name of Miss Lucy Whittaker Niece, and ward of Mr. Silas Whittaker. We understand you may have knowledge of their whereabouts. We would be obliged if you would open the door." Eleanor handed Wade a rifle. "They've got the warrant pre-written," she murmured. "I figured. Rourke is bought." "I figured that too." "Wade?" "Yes." "If I open that door, do you swear to me on your brother's grave that every word you have told me tonight is true?" "On Caleb's grave, Eleanor." She looked at him. She nodded once. Then Eleanor Hart walked to her front door with her hair down her back like a girl, and her jaw set like a general, and she opened it 6 inches, and put her rifle muzzle through the gap, and she said very sweetly, "Marshal Rourke, good morning. Please step back off my porch." Silence. "Miss Hart." 3 paces, Marshal. I do not like a man on my porch at this hour, and I do not like a man with a warrant at any hour. 3 paces. "Miss Hart, I have no wish to be unpleasant." 3 paces. Boots shifted. Rourke stepped back. "Miss Hart, if you are harboring..." "Marshal, I am a school teacher and a Christian woman, and I am not in the habit of receiving accusations at my own doorway. You will present your warrant through the crack of this door. You will stand where I can see you. You will keep both your hands in view. And you will not speak to me in the tone you would speak to a tavern girl, or I will close this door, and the next conversation you have with me will be through a hole in its pine." A long pause. A paper came through the crack. Eleanor took it with her left hand. Her right stayed on the rifle. She stepped back 2 steps and let the door hang on its latch and read the warrant by the lamp. "Wade." "Yes." "This warrant is dated yesterday." "Yes." "At 2 in the afternoon." "Yes." "The wagon burned at what time?" "Around 3 by my reckoning." Eleanor looked up from the paper. "This warrant was issued an hour before the child was even missing." Eleanor. "Which means Silas Whittaker had a kidnapping warrant drawn up on a man he had never met before the accident had even been reported." "Yes." "He planned this." He planned all of it. From the jump. From the jump, Eleanor. She folded the warrant neatly twice and put it inside her wrapper against her skin. Then she stepped back to the door. Marshal Rourke. Miss Hart, your warrant is fraudulent. The dates do not correspond to any possible timeline of the events described therein. I will be retaining this document, and I will be presenting it in person to the Federal Circuit Judge in Denver City, along with a sworn affidavit of everything that has occurred on my property this morning. Silence. Then Rourke's voice, no longer polite at all. Miss Hart, open the door. No. Open the door, ma'am, or we will open it for you. Marshal, I have 3 rifles, a 10-year-old girl under my floor, and 8 years of pent-up fury in my chest, and I suggest you ride on. Miss Hart, ride on, Rourke. Ma'am, I am giving you one more chance. A new voice cut him off. That is quite all right, Marshal. Thank you. I will speak to the lady myself. Wade's hand tightened on the rifle. Good morning, Miss Hart, the new voice called. Warm, educated, a banker's voice, a benefactor's voice. My name is Silas Whitaker. I believe you have my niece. Eleanor looked at Wade. Wade looked at Eleanor. Silas Whitaker had come himself. Miss Hart, I understand Mr. Barrett has told you quite a story. I expect it is a compelling one. Mr. Barrett is a compelling man. He has always been very good at persuading decent women to believe things that are not entirely true. Wade's jaw clenched. Mr. Whitaker, Eleanor called back, her voice steady as a surveyor's level. I am a schoolteacher. I do not traffic in stories. I traffic in facts. You may speak your facts through this door, or you may mount your horse and ride away. Either way, you are not entering this building. Miss Hart, my niece, is a very sick child. She requires medication every 4 hours. Without it, she will die. You are well-meaning, but you are, I am afraid, holding a dying child captive under the false impression that you are saving her. Is that a fact, Mr. Whitaker? It is, ma'am. Then perhaps you can tell me, Mr. Whitaker, what medication she requires. A pause. I beg your pardon. What medication, sir? You said she requires medication every 4 hours. What medication? Name it. Dose it. Tell me what you would have poured into this child's mouth if I were to open this door and hand her to you. The pause stretched. Miss Hart, you don't know, do you? My physician handles the particulars. Of course he does. Mr. Whitaker, I am looking at your niece's leg right now. I am looking at a brace designed by a craftsman to cause injury, fitted by a doctor to cause dependence, and paid for by a man who stands to inherit everything she owns the day she dies of complications. That is what I am looking at, sir. That is the fact I am holding in my schoolhouse this morning. Now ride on. Silence. Then, Silas Whitaker's voice, still gentle, still educated, changed register by about 1 degree. Miss Hart, I have tried civility. I have tried reason. I have tried generosity. I am asking you one last time to open this door and return my ward. No, Mr. Whitaker. Miss Hart, you will regret this. I already regret many things, Mr. Whitaker. This will not be one of them. Marshal Rourke. Sir. Execute the warrant. Wade was already moving. He shoved Eleanor sideways behind the teacher's desk, threw the first rifle to her, levered the second, and took up position at the north window as the first boots came up the steps. Outside, a half-circle of hired men spread out across the schoolyard, and the town, still half asleep, came to its doors and windows to watch. A merchant in a nightshirt stood frozen on the boardwalk across the street. A blacksmith, barefoot shirt half-buttoned, stepped down from his porch with a hammer in his hand, and did not move forward, and did not move back. A boy of maybe 14 peeked from behind a water trough with eyes as round as coffee cups. The first shot that came through the schoolhouse wall hit Eleanor's globe of the world on its stand and split Africa clean in half. The second shot took out the lamp. The third shot punched through the floorboards, inches from where below a 10-year-old girl lay in the dark with her hand pressed over her own mouth. And Eleanor Hart, schoolteacher healer woman wronged, stepped out from behind her desk with her rifle at her shoulder and fired back. Her first shot took Rourke's hat off his head. Her second shot took the hinge off the front door. Her third shot put a .44 caliber hole through the lapel of the nearest hired gun and the man went down with a surprised look on his face, like nobody had told him the school teacher could aim. "Eleanor!" Wade barked from the north window. "Get down!" "I am down." "Lower." She dropped behind the desk and thumbed fresh cartridges into the loading gate without taking her eyes off the door. "Wade Barrett." "Yes, ma'am." "I have not killed a man in 12 years. Don't break the streak on my account." "I won't. I aimed for the lapel." "Then your aim is a touch off Eleanor. You took him through the shoulder. Shoulder works." Outside, Silas Whitaker's voice rose clear above the gunfire. Hold your fire, all of you." The shooting stopped. In the thin quiet, Wade could hear his own heartbeat, and below the floorboards the small, fast breathing of a 10-year-old girl trying not to cry. "Miss Hart." Silas again, that banker's voice steady as a church bell. "You have wounded a deputized officer of the peace. You have fired upon a marshal. You have barricaded a dying child. You are now, by any reasonable reading of territorial law, a criminal, Miss Hart, a kidnapper, an accomplice, a fugitive. Is that so, Mr. Whitaker?" "It is, ma'am." "Then I am in excellent company this morning." Wade almost laughed. "Miss Hart, I am going to give you a final opportunity. Send out the child. Send out Mr. Barrett. Walk out with your hands above your head. Publicly surrender to the marshal. I will personally vouch that you were misled by a dangerous man, and I will see to it that no charges are brought. You have my word." "Mr. Whitaker, your word is worth less to me than a broken pencil." "Miss Hart." "Ride on, sir." Silas Whitaker did not ride on. He did something worse. "Mr. Harlan," Silas called, and his voice carried to every porch and doorway on the street. "Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Coombs, please step forward." 3 men stepped off 3 porches on the far side of the street. Wade could see them through the gap in the shutter slit. One was the blacksmith with the hammer. One was a heavy man in a flour-dusted apron who must have kept the feed store. The third was a lean, sun-cured rancher who stood with his thumbs in his belt and would not meet anybody's eye. "Mr. Harlan," Silas said to the blacksmith, "I hold the mortgage on your forge." The blacksmith looked at the ground. "Mr. Fletcher, I hold the lease on your feed store." The heavy man nodded slowly. "Mr. Coombs, I hold the note on your south pasture. 300 head of cattle, correct?" 312, the rancher said. 312, yes. Silas's voice never rose. "Gentlemen, I am asking as a neighbor and as a citizen of this fine settlement for your assistance in the lawful apprehension of a known kidnapper. The marshal has a warrant. The case is clear. Your cooperation will, of course, be remembered, as will your lack of cooperation." The blacksmith stood very still. "Mr. Whitaker?" His voice was rough. "I got a wife, sir, and 3 little ones. I know Mr. Harlan. It is a fine family. I send a Christmas ham to that family every year, do I not?" "You do, sir." "Then step forward, please, with your rifle." Inside the schoolhouse, Eleanor closed her eyes. "Oh, Wade. I see it. He is going to make them do it." "I see it, Eleanor. They are our neighbors." "I know." The blacksmith went inside his house. He came back out with a rifle. His wife followed him to the door in her nightdress, and she held on to his sleeve, and he shook her off gentle, and did not look at her, and he walked out into the middle of the street with the rifle held loose along his thigh, and he looked at the schoolhouse door, and his face was the face of a man who was already damning himself. The feed store man did the same. The rancher followed. 3 more men came out of 3 more houses. A clerk, a stable boy, a farrier. None of them had chosen this. Every one of them had chosen it. That was how Silas Whitaker worked. He did not ask men to be evil. He asked them to be practical, and then he called the sum of their practicality by another name. "Eleanor." "Yes." "I can't shoot the blacksmith." "I know." "I can't shoot the feed man." "I know, Wade." "I need another way." Below the floor, a small voice spoke through the cracks. "Mr. Wade?" "Hush, honey." "Mr. Wade, listen." "Lucy." "The hatch in the back, the one Miss Eleanor said I was to go out of." "Does it come out under the porch?" "Yes, honey." And the porch comes out under the schoolyard fence. Yes. And the fence runs to the pines. Lucy Rose, what are you thinking? I'm thinking, the small voice said, that if Miss Eleanor walks out the front door with her hands up, and you walk out the front door with your hands up, then Uncle will send every one of those men to guard you, and there won't be nobody watching the back. Lucy. And if there is a child under the porch, Mr. Wade, and she has both her legs tonight, maybe she can crawl out that fence and make the pines. And maybe the pines have a horse waiting at the end of them. Wade stared down at the floorboards. Lucy Rose Whitaker. Yes, sir. You are not walking out the back alone. You are 10 years old. I'm almost 11, Mr. Wade. You are not walking out the back alone. Then who rides to Denver, Mr. Wade? You can't. Miss Eleanor can't. They'll both be in a cell by noon. If nobody rides, Uncle wins. Eleanor. I heard her. Tell her no. Eleanor did not answer for a long moment. Eleanor. Tell her no. Wade. Eleanor, don't you do this to me. Wade Barrett, listen to the child. She's 10 years old. And she has been 3 steps ahead of every adult in this story since the wagon went off the road. She walked tonight for the first time since they put that brace on her. She hid the evidence before they ever put her in the wagon. She is a Whitaker Wade, the good kind, and she is right. Wade set his forehead against the rifle stock and closed his eyes. Lucy. Yes, sir. If I put you out that back hatch and I give you a name and I give you a destination, do you swear to me on your mama's grave that you will not stop? Not for a kind voice, not for a hungry belly, not for a soft bed, until you reach that name and that destination. I swear, Mr. Wade. The name is Marcus Bell. He is a federal investigator. He has an office above the bank on 16th Street in Denver City. He was your papa's friend, Lucy. Your papa wrote me a letter 6 years ago about him. Said if ever a Whitaker was in trouble, Marcus Bell was the man. Marcus Bell. 16th Street. Above the bank. Say it back 3 times. Marcus Bell, 16th Street, above the bank. Marcus Bell, 16th Street, above the bank. Marcus Bell, 16th Street, above the bank. Good girl. Mr. Wade. Yes, honey. The box. What about it, Lucy? I can't ride to Denver without the box. Lucy. Uncle will lie. He always lies. Without the box, it's just a child's word against a rich man's. Papa told me. Papa told me 100 times. Miss Lucy Rose Whitaker. I have to go by the summer house, Mr. Wade. No. Mr. Wade. No, Lucy. It's on the way. It is. I know the back pasture gate. I know where the dogs sleep. I know where Cook hides the key to the root cellar. I can be in and out in 10 minutes. Lucy. Please, Mr. Wade. Wade looked at Eleanor. Eleanor looked at him. Eleanor's face said she did not like it. Eleanor's face also said the child was right, and she was right, and she was right. Damn it, Wade whispered. Language, Mr. Barrett, Eleanor said quietly. Yes, ma'am. He looked down at the floorboards again. Lucy. Yes, sir. You go out the back. You crawl the fence. You make the pines. You will find a sorrel mare tied to the 3rd aspen from the south end. Her name is Juniper. She belongs to Miss Eleanor, and she knows the way to the summer house because Miss Eleanor used to ride her there when your mama was alive. And because I am praying to God that horse remembers. I can ride bareback, Mr. Wade. Papa showed me. Of course you can, Mr. Wade. Before you go, Lucy? Yes, sir. If anything goes wrong, if anyone stops you, if your uncle's men are at the summer house, you do not fight, you do not run at them. You turn that mare around and you ride straight for Denver with nothing, and you find Marcus Bell and you tell him everything. The box is second, you are first. Do you understand me? Yes, Mr. Wade. Say it. I am first, the box is second. Good girl. Lucy. Yes, sir. If you ain't at Marcus Bell's office by Friday sundown, I am coming for you. If I am dead, Miss Eleanor is coming for you. If we are both dead, every honest man this family ever helped is coming for you. You are not alone, Lucy Rose. You have never been alone. Do you hear me? A silence. Then very small. Yes, Mr. Wade. Go, honey. Now. Quick and quiet. God go with you. The rug lifted. The hatch opened. A small shadow slipped out from under Eleanor's table, crossed the back of the schoolhouse in 4 fast steps, and dropped down into the dark beneath the porch. The hatch closed without a sound. Eleanor's hand found Wade's wrist in the dark. Now what, Mr. Barrett? Now we walk out the front door, Miss Hart. With our hands up. With our hands up. They will arrest us. Yes, ma'am. They may hang us. Not today, Eleanor. How do you know? Because Silas Whitaker wants Lucy, and as long as he thinks she is in this schoolhouse with us, he will not harm either one of us. He will put us in a wagon, and he will take us to a cell, and he will keep us alive until he has the girl. That buys her a day. A day is enough. And tomorrow, Miss Hart, we start being a problem. Eleanor squeezed his wrist. Then she let it go. Wade. Yes. For the record. Yes. I am still going to have my conversation with you. I know, Eleanor. I have 8 years of words saved up. I know. You are going to hear every one of them. I want to, Eleanor. She stood up from behind the desk. She set her rifle down on the teacher's chair. She took her wrapper off and folded it neat over the back of the chair, because Eleanor Hart was going to be arrested, with her hair brushed and her collar straight, or she was not going to be arrested at all. Mr. Whitaker, she called through the broken door. Mr. Rourke, we are coming out. Hold your fire. We are unarmed. Slowly, Miss Hart. Slowly. She walked to the door. Wade walked behind her. They stepped out onto the porch with their hands above their heads, and the morning sun came up over the feed store roof and hit them both full in the face, and every man in the schoolyard lowered his rifle, except Silas Whitaker, who was not holding one to begin with. Silas stood in the middle of the street in a black frock coat, clean as a Sunday morning. He was a handsome man. That was the cruelest part. A good jaw, kind eyes gray at the temples, in a way that made other men trust him on sight. He looked at Wade Barrett the way a man looks at a horse he intends to put down later. Mr. Barrett. Whitaker. Where is my niece? In the schoolhouse, Whitaker. Where do you think? Silas smiled. A tight, small, polite smile. Marshal Rourke. Please verify. Rourke went inside. Wade stood very still with his hands in the air and counted the seconds in his head, the way a man counts seconds when a child's life is riding on them. He counted to 40 before Rourke came back out. She's not there, Mr. Whitaker. The schoolyard went quiet. Silas Whitaker turned his head very slowly and looked at Wade Barrett. His face did not change. That was the frightening part. Mr. Barrett, where is my niece? I couldn't say. Mr. Barrett, I was in the schoolhouse for 4 hours, Whitaker. Same as Miss Hart, same as you. If the child ain't there, maybe she never was. Maybe you got bad information. Maybe your man on the ridge yesterday lied to you about what he seen before the wagon burned. I wouldn't know. I'm a mountain cowboy. I don't follow high society. Silas stared at him. You are lying to me, Mr. Barrett. I am telling you, Mr. Whitaker, that your niece is not in that schoolhouse, and I am telling you the truth, and I will swear to it in front of any judge you care to produce. Silas Whitaker looked at Wade a long, long time. Then he turned to the blacksmith. Mr. Harlan. Sir? Ride for the summer house. Now. Wade's stomach dropped. Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Coombs. With him. Take the south road. Push your horses. If you pass a child on the road, any child by herself, on horseback, on foot, riding with a farmer hiding in a wagon, any child at all, you bring her to me. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Go. 3 horses wheeled. 3 riders broke south at a hard gallop. Wade kept his face still as Riverstone. Inside every organ he had turned cold. Lucy could not have made the pines in time to reach the pasture yet. She would still be on foot. She would still be in the scrub along the back fence working for the aspen grove where Juniper was tied. 3 men on 3 fast horses, headed down the same road. And Wade Barrett stood in the street with his hands above his head and could not move. Mr. Whitaker, Eleanor's voice, clear, steady, like a woman calling a class to order. Miss Hart, Before your men ride very far, sir, you may wish to know that the kidnapping warrant you presented at my door was issued an hour before the wagon accident occurred and is therefore fraudulent on its face. I have retained the document. A federal clerk in Denver City will be reading it by the end of the week. And when he does, every man presently in your employ will need to account for his role in what has transpired here this morning." Silas turned his head. He looked at Eleanor Hart the way he had looked at Wade, only worse. "Miss Hart." "Mr. Whitaker." "You are a very dangerous woman." "Thank you, sir." "That was not a compliment." "I know, sir. I took it as one anyway." For one bright instant, Silas Whitaker's polite mask cracked, and Wade Barrett saw the thing underneath, and the thing underneath was not a businessman. The thing underneath was small and cold, and very, very hungry. "Marshal Rourke." "Sir?" "Arrest them both." "Yes, sir." "Separate cells." "Yes, sir." "No visitors." "Yes, sir." "And Marshal." "Sir." "If either one of them speaks to anyone at all between here and the jailhouse, you will shoot them where they stand, and I will personally speak to the governor about your pension." "Yes, sir." They put irons on Wade Barrett's wrists. They put irons on Eleanor Hart's wrists. They walked them both to a prison wagon that had been parked out of sight behind the feed store all along, and they loaded them up like freight. The wagon began to roll. Wade pressed his forehead against the iron bars and prayed to a God he had not spoken to in 8 years, and he prayed in one direction only. He prayed south. He prayed for a sorrel mare with a 10-year-old girl on her back to already be past the summer house, past the third creek, past the high meadow, past any place 3 hard riders on fast horses could catch her. He prayed for Lucy Rose Whitaker to be riding into Denver City alone, with a box of papers lashed to the saddle, and a name in her mouth, and her papa's knots at every strap, because there was not a single other thing in the world Wade Barrett could do for her now. The wagon rolled, the sun climbed, and behind them in a schoolhouse with a split globe and a shot-out door, Eleanor Hart's lamp burned itself out at last. Juniper knew the road to the summer house the way a horse knows the way to its own barn. Lucy Rose Whitaker rode her bareback with both small hands fisted in the sorrel mane, and her teeth clamped so tight she tasted iron. Her bad leg screamed with every stride. Her good leg had gone numb somewhere past the second creek. Behind her 3 miles back and closing, she could hear the dust. "Go, Juniper," she whispered into the mare's ear. "Go, girl. Papa said you were the fastest mare in the territory. Prove it to me." The mare flattened her ears and ran. Lucy cleared the south ridge a 1/4 mile ahead of Harlan Fletcher, and Coombs dropped into the dry wash behind the summer house and slid off Juniper's back into dust that burned her cut palms like salt. She did not cry. There was no time left in the world for crying. She found the back pasture gate latched, but unlocked. Cook had left the root cellar key where Cook always left it under the loose brick by the cistern pump. Lucy worked the key with hands that shook so hard she dropped it twice. The third time the lock turned. She went down the cellar stairs on her belly because her leg would no longer take her weight down steps. She pushed past the shelves of preserves in the dark. Apricots, quince, currant jelly her mama had put up the summer before she died. And behind them in the very back, crammed behind one dusty crock of pickled beets that nobody in that house had ever loved, the box. Cedar, brass-bound. Papa's initials burned into the lid. She hugged it to her chest, the way a smaller child would have hugged a doll. "Papa," she whispered. "I got it. I got it for you." Then the dogs began to bark up at the main house. Lucy came up the cellar stairs on one knee and one good leg, and pure desperation, she tied the box to Juniper's withers with a length of pigging string she had stolen off a hook by the stables, and she was 3 strides into the brush when Harlan Fletcher and Coombs rode into the yard above her. Harlan saw her. She saw Harlan see her. The blacksmith pulled up his horse so hard the animal skidded on its hocks. He stared at the little girl on the sorrel mare below him. He stared at the cedar box lashed to her withers. He stared at the bruise on her face, and the scorched hem of her dress, and the way her leg hung, and then he looked back over his shoulder at Fletcher and Coombs, who had not yet come around the barn. "Mr. Harlan," Lucy said, very quiet. "Please." The blacksmith's jaw worked. Mr. Whitaker sends my family a Christmas ham every year, child. Yes, sir. I know it, sir. I seen it on your table. A ham, Miss Whitaker? Yes, sir. Harlan looked at the cedar box. He looked at the little girl. He turned his horse sideways in the gap between the outbuildings so that his animal's broad chestnut body blocked the line of sight from the barn. You go, Miss Whitaker. Sir. You go. Mr. Harlan. Girl, I said go. And if I ever see you again on this side of the divide, it will be in a federal courtroom, and I will be testifying for you. And you will tell the judge I helped, and maybe my children will not grow up with my name hanging from a cottonwood. Now go. Now, before Coombs comes around that barn. Lucy Rose Whitaker looked up at the blacksmith with eyes too old for her face. God bless you, sir. Ride, child. She rode. She rode for 2 days and 1 night on that sorrel mare, sleeping an hour at a time in stock ponds and willow thickets, eating nothing but the hardtack an old freight driver slipped her at a watering station in exchange for a silver button off her dress. She rode past men who tried to be kind, and men who tried to be cruel, and one woman on a wagon bench who took one long look at the little girl on the lathered mare with the cedar box lashed to her withers, and said only, South Fork at the next crossroad, honey. Keep the sun on your left hand till it sets. Then keep a star named Vega on your left shoulder. You'll hit the Denver road by midnight. Lucy kept Vega on her left shoulder. She hit the Denver road at 12:15. She rode into Denver City at dawn on a Friday morning with Juniper's head down and her own head swimming, and she stopped the first honest-looking man she saw on a street corner and said in a voice thinner than smoke, Please, sir, Marcus Bell, 16th Street, above the bank. The man looked at the child. He looked at the horse. He looked at the cedar box. He took off his hat. Miss, he said, I will take you there myself. Meanwhile, 60 miles north, in a cell in the territorial jail at Fairplay, Wade Barrett sat on a wooden bench with his wrists still in irons and listened to Eleanor Hart say every word she had saved up for him over 8 years. She spoke for nearly an hour. She did not raise her voice once. She told him what it had been like to wake up in an empty bed after he left. She told him what it had been like to walk into church the following Sunday and answer the pastor's wife's question about the wedding. She told him what it had been like to burn the blue dress she had been sewing. She told him what it had been like to bury his brother alone because he could not stand to be there. She told him what it had been like to read the newspapers every week for the first year looking for his name in the dead column. She told him what it had been like on the 5th year to finally take off the ring he had never asked back for. Wade sat. He did not interrupt. When she was done, Eleanor put her hands in her lap and looked at the bars of the cell between them. Wade Barrett. Yes, Eleanor. Do you have anything to say? Only one thing, Miss Hart. Say it. I was wrong. Eleanor closed her eyes. You were wrong. I was wrong. Eleanor Hart and I have been wrong every day for 8 years. And the only thing I have done right in the whole of that time is ride down out of a burning canyon with a little girl in my arms and bring her to your door. That was not my courage. That was her grace and your mercy. I was wrong, Eleanor, and I am saying it to you now because I do not know if I will get to say it to you tomorrow. Eleanor did not open her eyes. That prosit, she said, is the correct answer, Wade Barrett. Yes, ma'am. Do not expect a further conversation on the subject. No, ma'am? When we are out of here? Yes. If we are out of here? Yes. You are going to build me a porch. Ma'am? A porch, Mr. Barrett, on the south side of the schoolhouse. I have wanted a porch for 6 years. You are going to build it. Yes, Miss Hart. I am going to build you a porch. Good. They sat. Down the corridor, a key turned in a lock. Boots came up the stone floor. 2 sets. One heavy and slow, one quick and educated. Silas Whitaker stopped in front of Wade's cell with Marshal Rourke at his shoulder. Mr. Barrett. Whitaker. I have come to make you an offer. Have you? A generous one? Imagine that. Tell me where you sent the child, Mr. Barrett. Tell me now in this cell where no witness hears you, and I will see to it that both you and Miss Hart walk free by morning. A misunderstanding. A clerical error. The warrant was drawn improperly. Marshal Rourke will swear to it. You and the lady will be released with a modest stipend for your trouble, and you may leave the territory at your leisure. Leave the territory. Anywhere you like, Mr. Barrett. Wyoming, Montana, California. I will purchase the tickets myself. And the child? The child will be returned to her loving family, Mr. Barrett, where she will receive the medical care she requires. Wade looked at Silas Whitaker a long time. Then he laughed. He laughed low and slow, a mountain man's laugh. A laugh that was not a laugh at all. And when he was done laughing, he stood up in his irons and walked to the bars of his cell. And he put his face as close to Silas Whitaker's face as the bars would allow. And he said very quiet, "Mr. Whitaker, there is a 10-year-old girl riding a sorrel mare bareback across the territory with your life in a cedar box at her withers. I have been watching you since you walked up that corridor. You would not be here offering me anything if she had not made it. She made it, Silas. She got there. Marcus Bell is reading her papers right now, and no ticket to California you could buy me is worth the look that is going to be on your face in about 48 hours. Silas Whitaker did not move for 6 heartbeats. Then he took one step back from the bars. His polite face cracked again the way it had cracked in the street outside the schoolhouse, and this time it did not go back together. "Mr. Barrett, you have made a grievous error. We'll see, Whitaker. You have bet your life on a child. Best bet I ever laid, Whitaker." Silas turned on his heel and walked back down the corridor, and the iron door at the end of the hall slammed behind him like a sentence being read. Eleanor let out a breath she had been holding the whole time. "Wade." "Yes. I hope you are right. I am, Eleanor. Because if you are not, I am." He was. 41 hours later, the federal investigator Marcus Bell rode into Fairplay with a deputy United States Marshal. 2 federal writs, a sworn deposition from a 10-year-old girl, a cedar box containing 37 ledger pages, 9 forged deeds, 4 false wills, and a letter in the hand of the late Thomas Whitaker, naming his brother Silas as the man most likely to murder him if Thomas should die unexpectedly. They opened Wade Barrett's cell. They opened Eleanor Hart's cell. They arrested Marshal Clive Rourke in his own office at 3 in the afternoon, and they rode all of them back to Denver City, with Wade and Eleanor side by side, in a proper buggy, and an armed federal escort, front and rear. Lucy was waiting for them in Marcus Bell's office above the bank on 16th Street. She was sitting very straight in a leather chair that was too big for her, with a glass of milk on the desk in front of her and Juniper's bridle across her lap. And when Wade Barrett walked through the door, she stood up on both her legs, without the brace, without a crutch, without a hand from anybody. And she walked across the office to him on her own 2 feet, and she wrapped her arms around his waist. Wade went to one knee in the doorway and held her. He did not speak. He could not. Eleanor Hart stood in the doorway behind them, with her hand pressed over her own mouth, and for the first time since Wade Barrett had walked back into her life, she let the tears come. "Mr. Wade?" "Yes, honey." "I told you she'd forgive you." "I know it, Lucy. I told you." "I know, sweetheart." "Mr. Wade?" "Yes." "I did what Papa said. I got the box to the federal man. I did it." "You did it, Lucy Rose. Papa would be proud. Your papa," Wade said into her hair, "is so proud of you right now that the stars are bright over Colorado tonight. Don't you doubt it. Not for one day. Not for the rest of your life." Lucy nodded into his shirt. And then she looked up, and her small hard face went hard in that way it went, and she said, "Mr. Wade, Uncle." "I know, honey. I want to be there." "Lucy, I want him to see me walking in." "Are you sure, Lucy Rose?" "I have been sure since the wagon, Mr. Wade. I have been sure since before the wagon. I have been sure my whole life. Let me be there." Wade looked at Marcus Bell. Marcus Bell, a thin man in spectacles, with eyes like a hanging judge's, nodded once. "She is a material witness, Mr. Barrett. She has every right to be there." "Then she will be there." They went for Silas Whitaker on a Tuesday afternoon. He was giving a speech, a stockholders' luncheon at the Windsor Hotel in Denver City. 200 men in broadcloth. Newspaper men at the back. A territorial judge at the head table. Silas Whitaker standing at the podium speaking about the moral obligations of capital, about the shepherd's duty to his flock, about the responsibilities of men of means toward the weaker members of God's creation. He was 2 sentences into that last thought when the double doors at the back of the dining room opened. Marcus Bell walked in first. The Deputy United States Marshal walked in second. Eleanor Hart walked in third, in a clean gray dress, with her hair up and a folded warrant in her hand. Wade Barrett walked in fourth, with his hat in one hand and his mountain walk. And Lucy Rose Whitaker walked in last, on her own 2 feet, slow, careful, a little stiff at the left knee. A 10-year-old girl in a clean cotton dress and a blue ribbon in her hair walking down the center aisle of the Windsor Hotel dining room between 200 men in broadcloth. The room went silent. Silas Whitaker saw her from the podium. His face did a thing Wade Barrett would remember until the day he died. It was not fear. It was not even surprise. It was the face of a man who had just been informed by an authority he could not dispute that his entire life's work had been undone by someone he had never thought worth counting. He set his hands on the podium to steady himself. "Lucy," he said. His banker's voice came out cracked. "Lucy, dear, thank God. Thank God you are safe, child." Lucy walked past him without looking at him. She walked to the head table where the territorial judge sat. She put both her small hands on the edge of the tablecloth. She looked up at the judge, and she spoke. She did not speak long. She did not speak prettily. She spoke like a child who had been forced to learn too early what adults were capable of. "Your Honor, my name is Lucy Rose Whitaker. My papa was Thomas Whitaker. My mama was Rose Whitaker. They are both dead. My uncle Silas killed them. He killed Mr. Caldwell at the bank. He killed Mrs. Brennan, who minded me. He killed Mr. Halloran, who drove my wagon on the day it burned. He paid a man to burn me alive so he could have my papa's land and my papa's water and my papa's creek. He hired a doctor to put a brace on my leg that had studs on the inside so I would hurt every time I tried to walk. He did it so I would be weak. He did it so I would need him. He kept calling control care, Your Honor. He kept calling it care. But it was never care. Care does not leave a child under a burning wagon. Care does not shoot at a schoolhouse with babies under the floor. My papa's papers are in a cedar box on Mr. Bell's desk. They are all there. Please read them. Please read them, Your Honor. Because my papa cannot be here, and my mama cannot be here, and Mr. Halloran cannot be here, and somebody has got to speak for them, and I am the only one left." The room did not move. 200 men in broadcloth did not move. The territorial judge, a man who had sat on the bench for 22 years and heard by his own count over 6,000 cases, took off his spectacles. He wiped them slowly with a linen handkerchief. He put them back on. "Miss Whitaker." "Yes, sir." "I have read your papers, child." "Yes, sir." "I read them this morning." "Yes, sir." "Yes. I am going to read them again, Miss Whitaker, in open court, in front of a jury, with every word your uncle ever signed, entered into the public record. Do you understand me, child?" "Yes, sir." "You have done a very great thing today, Miss Whitaker." "My papa did it, sir. I only carried it." The judge looked at Lucy Rose Whitaker over the rims of his spectacles for a long moment. Then he looked past her down the length of the room at Silas Whitaker still standing frozen behind the podium with his hands on the polished wood. "Mr. Silas Whitaker, Your Honor, you will come with the marshal now. You will come quietly. You will say nothing further in this room. Any word you speak from this moment forward will be added to the charges already pending against you, and there are a great many of them, sir. A very great many." Silas Whitaker opened his mouth. He closed it. He walked on legs that barely held him down the aisle between 200 men who had eaten his food and taken his investments and sent Christmas cards to his wife, and every one of those men turned his face away as Silas passed. That was the worst thing that happened to him that day. Not the handcuffs, not the cell, not the trial that would come. The fact that 200 respectable men in broadcloth in the space of a child's small speech had decided as one that they had never known him. At the door, Silas Whitaker stopped in front of Wade Barrett. Wade did not move. He had a loaded Colt on his hip. He had every reason in the world. He had a dead brother and a wronged woman and a little girl's scorched leg and 8 years of mountain silence, and a promise he had made on that brother's grave. He looked at Silas Whitaker, and Silas Whitaker looked at him, and for one terrible instant, every man in that dining room thought Wade Barrett was going to draw. Wade did not draw. He stepped back. He stepped back because killing Silas Whitaker would have handed the truth back to money. He stepped back because restraint in that room on that day was a greater strength than any trigger he had ever pulled. He stepped back because there was a little girl behind him watching, and he was going to spend the rest of his life teaching her by his own example that a man did not have to become the thing he had fought. Silas Whitaker was led out in irons. Lucy Rose Whitaker walked back down the aisle on her own 2 legs to Wade and Eleanor. And the summer, for the first time in a long time, was quiet. They buried Silas Whitaker the following spring after the rope in a plot his widow paid for because no one else would. They buried Halloran the driver in Dry Creek in a proper grave with a proper stone that read, "He brought a child peppermint sticks." Marshal Clive Rourke did 12 years in the territorial prison and died there. The blacksmith Harlan testified in federal court for 3 full hours and was never prosecuted. And he lived to be 81, and he ate Christmas ham at his own table from a pig his own son raised, and he slept well most nights. Lucy Rose Whitaker inherited her father's land, her father's water, and her father's cattle. She hired Wade Barrett to run the high country summer camps. She hired Eleanor Hart to found the Thomas and Rose Whitaker School for Frontier Children, which by 1901 was teaching 211 students in a proper stone building with a bell tower and a library of 947 books. Wade built Eleanor her porch. He built it the first August they were free. He built it on the south side of the schoolhouse with his own hands, every nail of it, and when it was done, Eleanor sat on it with a cup of coffee at sunrise, and Wade sat beside her with a plug of chewing tobacco he hardly ever touched anymore. And Lucy Rose Whitaker, 11 years old, and then 12, and then 13, walked back and forth on the packed dirt of the schoolyard in front of them, in the long golden evenings, getting stronger, getting steadier, getting taller. Until one day, late in the summer of her 13th year, Lucy walked past the porch and looked up and said, "Mr. Wade." "Yes, honey. I ain't limping anymore." "I see it, Lucy. I ain't limped in a week. I see it. Papa would be proud. Papa is proud." "Mr. Wade." "Yes." "Miss Eleanor." "Yes, sweetheart. Thank you both for coming for me." Eleanor reached across the porch boards and took Wade's rough hand in her small one, and she squeezed it, and she did not let it go. And Wade Barrett, mountain cowboy, late of nowhere, a man who had once ridden down into a burning canyon on the worst day of his life and come up out of it, the best man he had ever been, looked at the child standing strong in his dooryard and the woman holding his hand on his own porch, and understood at last and without any doubt the one truth a frontier ever teaches any man worth teaching. The strong were not the ones with the money, or the badges, or the polished boots, or the pleasant voices. The strong were the ones who stood between a cruel world and a child who could not yet stand for herself, and who kept standing there summer after summer, year after year, for as long as the standing was needed, and that was the only kind of strength that had ever been worth a damn in this country, and it would be the only kind of strength worth a damn in it forever.